if we end up nowhere and it's bad, you can just cut off. You can just cut
Okay.
off this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll
I'll
end
edit
on the
it
other
out.
one. Yeah.
This will never
Yeah.
have happened for others.
Yes, exactly. Or if you're watching this, hey, it turns out pretty good, so stay tuned. Uh, um, yeah, because there's so quick break, but let's see where this goes. Um, yeah, social media, narcissism, sense of self. It's interesting because I feel like we're really as a society or as a even as a race because it's pretty worldwide right now. The reality of social media and what it means seems schizophrenic or at least like multiple personality because like when the internet first came out, when Facebook first came out, or whatever social media first came out, it was very much like, oh, everyone has a space, everyone has a voice, you can curate, you can express yourself. You know, it's this tool, it's this means of doing a thing that should be and was and is very beautiful. Like I remember the early days of, Facebook or Instagram or whatever, like it's a joyful time. There's this wildness to it. There's this expression. Um, but over time, like it also, no, I'll stop talking in a second here. It also kind of solidifies into something that we think is real but isn't real. Like it divorces us from reality in a certain way that it's almost like an externalization of the ego process.
Hmm.
In a if we're using ego in sort of the negative sense of the word.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'll stop there and if you have
Yeah.
anything to say.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't, there's so many starting points and places to go. I guess one thing I think about it is that as many people point out, it's kind of unnatural in that, I'm like if you're just posting to social media or posting a video, you're speaking in real time for yourself, but not to others, and you're not hearing their reactions. And there's an unlimited almost number of anonymous people that you're speaking to. So that's just very unnatural. Like even if you're in a public space and you're speaking to a gathered crowd, you're feeling and seeing their reactions, and you're gathered there for a specific thing, and or there's culture around it and everything, right? And I view that as more natural, but still more natural is to me just dialogue kind of back and forth. It's not so much when you have an audience and everything. So I guess that's one thing that I would say is I think it's kind of unnatural, and I would say maybe you could characterize a lot of the growth of social media as being because of the lack of naturalness to it. So,
Yeah, yeah. This does kind of interestingly tie back to the narcissism discussion because it is like there's like a disembodied nature to it.
mm,
There's you're entirely focused on image, on concept, on something concrete, presentation,
mm,
and you do get feedback, you do get comments, you do get likes, you do get shares or whatever platform you're on, however that works.
yeah,
But it's not immediate. It's not in the moment. It's not, you're no longer relating to a mystery, you're relating to a concept. You create this concept, you put it out in the world, whether it's a
mm,
video or whether it's here's what I'm
mm,
doing today, or it's an image or whatever. It becomes this concretized thing that then there are reactions to that thing, and you're separated from that by 1 degree, but you're
mm,
no longer being directly impacted.
mm,
Um, and when you are having a dialogue with someone or when you are speaking in front of a crowd, if you're speaking and everybody's going to sleep, you're getting that live. You're getting that in your face. The back and forth of it, the exchange of information is happening. And so if that embarrasses you and you start having a strong emotional reaction, you have to then manage that emotional reaction in front of that crowd.
Mm.
Whereas if you post something on Facebook and you get a lot of bad feedback, one, nobody's going to see you freaking out about it unless you decide you want to start posting about it. And two, you can just delete it. So you're automatically like social media gives us this mimic of connection
Yeah.
that is curatable enough to the point where you're not risking
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And that seems like maybe where a lot of the danger comes from.
Yeah.
We lose if you don't risk, then you don't suffer. And if you don't suffer, you don't learn. And
Yeah.
that's not to say that we should be suffering all the time. Definitely shouldn't. But life is suffering. You know, there is an element of life that is painful, and to the extent that we try to detach ourselves from that, the pain comes back around another way because we still
Mm.
there's something about being human and being alive that means pain is part of it and finding ways to integrate that and live joyfully and fully while acknowledging that pain is
Mm.
I think part of what grows us as human beings or maybe what we're here to do or there's some level of necessity to
Mm.
being able to accept that element of reality that foundational level of it. And
Mm.
so when we try and separate ourselves as I'm pointing to with social media, like the pain will come around some other way and get us some other way. And, maybe the anxiety, the depression, the sort of dopamine addiction that social media gets us into, like it's creating suffering in other ways. And then now we have to learn how to relate to that suffering.
Yeah.
Because life will have its way with us, whether we want to or not, because we agreed to it before we got here, theoretically. Or
Yeah.
in any case, there's not really an opt-out clause. And nor
Yeah.
should there be. I don't think I
Yeah.
don't want to paint it that it's all suffering. I think um, something I learned from some people was you can't selectively numb. So if you numb yourself to the pain, you also numb yourself to the joy. But if you experience the pain when there is pain, then you can experience the joy when there's joy. And that's what makes life rich is the ups and the downs of it. And
Mm.
it's not going to last forever anyway, and it's always changing all the time anyway. So
Hmm.
there you are, you're in the mystery of it.
Yeah.
And if you can dance joyfully in the mystery of it, then it's a pretty good life. It's a pretty good way to spend your limited years here,
Hmm.
learning how to dance with the pain and the joy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you were saying about the asynchronous nature of social media, where you post something and then you're not getting any reaction, but you're waiting for it, and Jonathan Haidt talks about that as part of the way that kind that kind of interaction for young people, for kids, is is part of the reason why they're not developing social skills and they're having anxiety around other people and everything, because that's how they interact. So I just wanted to point out that yeah, that's not good for development, and I don't think that's good for our development as adults either.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that's interesting because I think I get this sense of like, oh, like so if you're sort of a chronically online person
Mm.
and you're used to that asynchronous thing, then when you're presented with something in real life, um, there would be this sort of deer in the headlights, kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know how to have this social interaction. And it's interesting for me because, back in high school or even prior to high school, so we're talking maybe computers were around, but not really the internet wasn't really a big thing to the degree that social media and all of that. Like we didn't
Mm.
grow up predisposed in this way that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know I still had the same feeling of awkwardness of like, oh, I'm not quite sure. And I think that's, I was a nerdy kid. I was very bookish. I maybe had some stuff go on when I was 6 months old, and there's some trauma work I've been doing around all. So it may have been something particular to me,
Mm.
but I feel like I can relate to that concept, that image I'm crafting for myself in this moment of this chronically online person, deer in the headlights of real life, because
Mm.
they're so used to the asynchronous nature of online life that I wonder at what does it mean that our entire global society is subjecting itself to this experiment all at the same time.
Mm,
There's not a lot of control groups. There's not a lot of societies in the world right now, except maybe some, hunter-gatherer, maybe the Amish, I don't know,
mm,
that are apart from whatever is going to happen to us because of this.
yeah.
Um, but I feel like I have found my way back to a level of comfort in reality despite the social media. And I don't know, maybe there's hope for the youths as well. I mean, humanity is very resilient, and we have put ourselves through a lot of bad things in our history, and yet here we are still growing and thriving. So maybe we can get past this and find something a little more holistic, a little more in touch with that mystery, a little more able to handle the improvisational nature of
Mm,
reality,
yeah.
without needing to beat ourselves up for getting it wrong, or punish each other for getting it wrong.
Hmm.
Social reinforcement of perfectionism.
Mm,
Um, I think if people are allowed to, because the reason we want that asynchronous thing is we want to be able to show up the way we're supposed to show up. There's an expectation of what we need to do to be acceptable.
mm,
Um, and we can craft that more carefully in social media reality than we can in actual reality.
yeah.
Uh, um, yeah,
Yeah, it's weird how people use the word brand for themselves now, your personal brand and stuff. To me, that it's not a good thing. You shouldn't be a brand.
yeah,
We should have less
yeah.
brands anyway. But
Yeah, I
that's
mean, what does it
my
even mean to be a
belief.
brand? Like, what does that mean for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're trying to, I mean, it's a little like narcissism, right? You're trying to craft the way others see you. They have this
Mm,
holist this image of you, and it's everything needs to be consistent, and it needs to be attractive. I mean, it seems like it's narcissism inducing,
yeah,
right?
that's interesting. Yeah, because the thing you're describing is very controlling. Like, I have to make sure that I present myself in such a way that I guarantee a certain response from people. Otherwise, I'm not safe. I'm not socially safe. I don't belong. And that would be narcissism inducing. That would be social reinforcement of narcissism.
Mm.
Um, but there's also an element of like, you should, and it's good to care about how you come across to others, in
Hmm.
that, like, every time we do one of these podcasts, I throw on a collared shirt because I there's a way that, like, I feel I'm coming across a little more professional.
Hmm.
I so there's the image. I'm sort of crafting my image in a way that, like, I think one time I showed up in a hoodie because it was cold. And like, it's fine, but that's the thing, right? So, like, I'm crafting this image. One, I feel like it presents myself in a certain way. Two, I feel in myself, oh, I feel a little more professional. I feel a little more put together. I've intentionally done this thing that makes me feel stronger, and that helps my energy present better. Like, so it's sort of a
Yeah.
self-supportive way. But and I think all of that is fine. The problem becomes, like, if I don't do it, or if I fail, or as soon as the presentation becomes more important than what it's being crafted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
give rise to, then we're in trouble. Because
Yeah.
then the living thing that's inside the presentation can wither. It can lose the support and the nourishment that it gets from engaging in the mystery and being energized by the mystery and the uncertainty of it all.
Yeah.
Um, and it dies, and we die, and then we're stuck with this husk of a persona.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think in society, when you have other people, you want to kind of respect what they are, what you seem to be to them. You want to be somewhat washed, and groomed and yeah, it I like uniforms in some way because for people doing a job, because then you kind of know what their role is. Obviously you don't want that person to only have that in their life or something like that, that they think that they are that or something that's not healthy. But yeah, I think there's a happy medium, but you're managing a little bit the image you're putting out there. And part of that is it's not because you want this deep validation, but you're kind of respecting other people's, you're somewhat playing a role a little bit. And then you can go beyond that and be friendly and even become friends or meet people or whatever. But yeah, I think uh, yeah, isn't it mostly about just respect and that, for others in society? This is not my world where I can just do whatever I want to do. And um and that sort of makes me think about how there is almost a sort of fetishization, or maybe that's not the word, but a lot of online branding is kind of this authenticity look, where maybe I'm disheveled, or maybe I just say whatever I think if I'm talking about world affairs, but I don't really know that much about them, but I kind of, you know, I don't know. I was thinking of like conspiracies and things in terms of where, I think you sort of asked where are we going with this, or I was thinking that from our discussion and internet culture and stuff. Yeah, I'm just yeah, I don't know what you want to say to that, but I'm a little pessimistic, or I don't know. Yeah, what are you
Mm.
thinking anything from what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm less pessimistic, and I think part of that comes from a belief that when things get to an extreme, they will often turn into their opposite.
Mm,
Sometimes you only know the good by having experienced the bad.
mm,
I mean, it's a bit of a Hail Mary pass at this point, but fingers crossed it works out. But I think there's something about human nature that these realms that we're talking about are so miserable. How are we going to be comfortable living in them? We're not really.
mm.
And when stress is put upon a system, the system will discover resources it didn't know it had.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's a
so
good way of putting it.
thank you. Thank you. That's kind of my hope as far as the pessimism goes. But um, I think when it comes to like the happy medium, one of the things that we need is allowance and forgiveness and
Mm,
sort of an acceptance of our own mediocrity or
mm,
our own imperfection. Really, I won't say mediocrity because that implies sort of a bland middling. And I'm like,
mm,
no, sometimes we're great, sometimes we're terrible. And like we, ah, I think one of the faults in the internet thing that we're talking about, this sort of online society, social media thing, is like we've somehow developed a link between if we craft our brand correctly, we will be safe. We will
mm,
belong, we will be validated.
mm,
There's a sourcing of some esteem there, some sort of validation of us
mm,
that we don't actually need. Like
mm,
we've mistaken the image for the source. How do I say this? And so the middle ground is the allowance of like, oh, like the image isn't necessary. The brand can slip, it can change. I don't, it's there to serve me as an expression, as a creation, an artistic thing.
mm,
Um, it's fun, it's enjoyable. Like But as soon as it solidifies into something that I have to maintain, or I lose my belonging, I lose my security, I lose my safety, then we're in trouble.
Mm,
Whether we're talking about like some high school kid who, if they don't post the right thing on their whatever account, like they're going to get bullied, or
mm,
we're talking about somebody who's got several million followers on YouTube, and if suddenly something comes up and they say the wrong thing, then they lose all of their wealth and their status and their fame, and they're
mm,
canceled or whatever, you know.
mm,
Or people are just like, oh, they're dumb, they fucked up, they're boring now. Audience
mm,
capture, you know, you
mm,
sort of like
mm,
then you
yeah,
have to perform for your audience because so much of your identity and your safety and security is built around the response that you need to make sure you're getting.
yeah,
If we can find ways of returning to ourselves something internal, that sacred pool of the divine inside of ourselves, as the thing that we can rest and be nourished by instead of being nourished by all these external reflections,
mm,
um, but also not take that as a, ooh, now I not be Narcissus and see our reflection in it and think that
yeah,
that's what the truth is. um, the more of us who I think can do that and find some kind of genuine esteem or fulfillment that will allow us to go on social sites and present in ways that aren't, you know, perfectly polished.
yeah,
Or we fail or we look dumb, but we're trying and we're having like that was why I think like YouTube and social media was so good when it first came out, was everybody was doing that. Everybody was playing, they were experimenting, they were trying, they were creating, and the consequences weren't big because, like, what the fuck was a YouTube? Nobody knew what it
mm,
was. It's just some kids messing around with video cameras. And
mm,
so, like, that was when it was fresh and new. And then as soon as it becomes something that you can harvest esteem from, then it starts solidifying into something toxic.
yeah,
And if we can take that step backward and find it in ourselves instead, and not be caught in the externals, then I think that's where, and as the externals become more and more miserable,
mm,
we're sourcing less and less good things from it. At some point, somebody's going to be like, wait a minute, no. And I don't mean one person, I mean like it will happen throughout. And
mm.
ideally, like they'll turn towards something. And in fact,
Please like and subscribe for more of our open-minded content, and comment below on your thoughts or questions about the story. Let us know if you'd like us to cover another stimulating story, and thank you for participating.